60 and 60 and single, 60 and happy, 60 and whatever it is that you want to talk about when you're over 60.
You still need me, will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Hi, I'm Michelle Ballin, and welcome to 60 and, the podcast where we talk about how women have been achieving great things, even within the constraints of our social structures. But at some point, we all start to feel invisible. And this is the chance to hear about the stories of the wins, losses, and draws that we over 60 or 50 or 70 have all experienced. So I'm the creative spirit behind this, confidence and branding coach with decades and decades and decades and decades of life experience. Yeah, I spent the majority of my life doing fashion business, which is the devil wears Prada in all its glory. I want to know what your story is. So 60 and what? How would you finish that sentence? Let's find out. So I'm starting this podcast for 60 and, which means 40 to 80.
60 and, which means 40 to 80.
Yes, it means 40 to 80, because I have experienced becoming invisible. And I hate that feeling. And I think it's bizarre, because I remember talking to my grandmother when she was like 84, and she said, I might be 84, but I feel like I'm 18 inside. And I get it. I totally get that. So I'm really big about empowering women, and I would love to have women in our certain age group to have a voice and talk about their stories, and to be who we are and stand up for who we are. So we know each other a little bit, but maybe if you could tell me, like, you sent me your little blurb, but what is joyful change? Can you tell me what that is?
My sister is a life coach, and she had been going around the country teaching people to be life coaches. And I suddenly thought, well, that might be an interesting thing to do. So I took the training, and it's about empowering people. It's about helping them to see that they are at cause in their lives. And it was very interesting for me, because most of the people there got right away that when you coach somebody, you need to be the spotlight operator. And I'm used to being the performer. and the reason I am used to being the performer is I'm more comfortable there.
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable out front.
Yeah.
And it feels safer. And I think that goes back to my babyhood, when I once had a vision of my mother and dad screaming at each other from opposite ends of the attic apartment we were in, and me standing in the bed as a toddler, less than 2, screaming for attention.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get things under control.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
At Little Rock, Arkansas.
Little Rock, Arkansas. That's pretty cool.
Now, my mother had the good sense to divorce my natural father before I was 3, and she married my stepfather when I was 3.
Okay.
And my stepfather was a politician. My mother was a actress. She did all kinds of things, and we were always out in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that I was much better off. I would be uncomfortable. I'd go and read in the closet or in the bedroom or something. And Mother said, "No, we're here. We are the hosts and hostesses. We have to get out and meet people." Well, I found out that if I go out and start meeting people, I'm in good shape,
That's pretty fun. I can relate, because I kind of come from a weird stage background. My mom was a director like for the YWCA or YMCA or something. And my dad was a magician. My dad was a magician like since he was like 20. So
Wow.
he had always been doing stuff. So we were always entertaining. And that was, so it is something that you decided when you were a little kid. What kind of games did you play? I used to play playing plays. We actually put on plays in my garage with audiences. I sold cotton candy. I was the director and I was the MC. So what did you
I
play?
love that. I was kind of a tomboy, and I like to play Wonder Woman scenes, and I like to be the person, and we would do detective scenes, and we would be tied up in the barn. We'd get each other free, and we'd my brothers, we'd jump off. But I was always telling them what to do.
Exactly. So
we never do it for an audience. We just did it for each other,
Right.
But we were always
So do you see a correlation between that little girl, Diana, and the woman that you are today?
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
how does that?
I tell you, I see a lot of correlations. I would just jump in and do things, get on my horse and ride off in all directions at once. But I also
Are you talking literal horse?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Good question. Okay. Now, my mother saw that I was like that, and she also saw that I had this other side where I would go and read hours. And she used to say the house could burn down and you'd not notice at all because you're in the middle of a book. And she saw that. She was an adventurer. My stepfather was an adventurer. He was a naval flight instructor, for God's sake, during the war. And she wanted to make sure that I saw things in a good light, in a happy light. And she told me that her favorite song was Look for the Silver Lining.
Oh, okay.
I believe now that she was programming me. Okay. Because I had a tendency to be somewhat, cynical or circumspect or, not fearful. I'll jump in and do it. But yes, there is definitely that. There is definitely the side of me that wants to analyze, overanalyze, and overthink everything. Mm-hmm. And then there's the side of me that wants to say, what the hell? Let's go out and do it.
So did you want to out yourself about your age? Because when I asked 60 and how would you finish that sentence? And you kind of gave me a sentence.
I said, yes, I'll out myself this much. Okay. It just goes all through me to see on these forms, 25 to 30, 35 to 40, that sort of thing.
And then lump us 55 plus. It's like
70 what? Plus, I was like, what? And I'll tell you, when I was coming up to 70, I thought, oh my God, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Well, I got here by putting one foot in front of the other, by living.
Yeah.
And I realized that it just annoys me. But I also found out pretty much the same thing that I found out at 30. I was concerned about 30 because when I became 30, the kids were all saying, oh, don't trust anybody over
30, right.
And when I got to be 30, well, the kids were all acting the same way they always did act to me. So big deal. And it's been pretty much the same thing with 70. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I'm concerned about is my mobility. Mm-hmm. And because my knees don't like they don't like getting up and down. And that is about the only thing. Otherwise, I thought about this, and I have not experienced the feeling of feeling invisible.
Okay.
And I think the reason is that I don't sit in my house and wait for people to come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I go
Yeah,
out and
you're pretty active. I mean, I know you from the voice stuff. So tell me a little bit about that. What is the voice? What do you call it? It's well, you just do private voice lessons, or you teach people to sing, or what?
yes, yes. I I was a music major. I sang and I still sing.
Mhm.
And I was a teacher in Palm Beach County schools. I taught at Conniston and then I taught at Lake Worth Junior High.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I was sometimes a church choir director and sometimes a musical director in shows, musicals that they had around. And when I was teaching in Conniston, I had a couple of kids who came to me and said, well, I'm going to high school. He wants us to all take voice lessons. Could you teach me voice lessons? So, sure, I did. I started. And I have been doing that ever since.
What's your favorite song, or what's the song that you use the most to teach people?
That's like asking a parent who's their favorite baby. You know, it really is
Would you sing something for me right now?
something. You know, when people say that, I usually go, something in the way she smiles.
Okay, okay,
But that's not it.
okay.
What I've been singing lately is no one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf.
I love
Ain't
it.
misbehaving.
I love it.
I'm
I
saving
actually
my love.
know that. I know that from. What is that from? What show is it from?
It's from Ain't Misbehaving.
Ain't Misbehaving. Okay, right, right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for
But
that.
thank you.
I really loved your quote that you put in there. Life may not be the party we hope for, but while we're still here, we may as well dance. How has that like affected your life, or how have you used that in living your life?
I've had that on my email since I had email. My mother and dad both were extremely pragmatic. And that has served me well
Mhm.
because my mother, first, she was the first person in her family to have a divorce. Now, she was a beauty in college. She was a absolutely gorgeous woman.
Mhm.
And she married this very intelligent, very, very handsome, and a wonderful singer. And he was becoming a doctor. And the only problem was that when he drank, he became psychopathic. So literally, I mean, the other guys would come to the house and say, take the baby and go home. He's coming home drunk.
Oh my gosh.
So take the baby and go to your parents' house.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she had the good sense and the bravery to get a divorce. In those days, she was the first person in her family to get a divorce.
Totally get it.
And she married my stepfather, who she had known in high school. He had been selling newspapers on the street at age 5. And,
When you could do that back in the day.
yes, you could do it exactly before it was a child labor law problem. But he became a flyer. He taught flying, and he became a politician. And when one thing didn't work out, he was on to the next thing.
Mhm.
My mother married him, had 2 more children. So there are 3 of us that grew up together.
Mhm.
And my little brother had polio at
Really?
11 months old. So my mother had to
Oh,
take care of the polio, not
that was
Richard,
tough.
who had
That
polio.
was tough back then.
And she had my father's grandmother, who was bedridden in the house. Now she had help. We had
Yeah.
help at our house.
Yeah.
But she had to do all that and be the wife of the
Yeah.
politician and stuff like that.
What
And she
What kind
handled
of
it.
position? What kind of position did he have?
He was an alderman, which these days we call a commissioner in the
Okay.
city.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
He ran for mayor 3 times, didn't win any time. The people didn't want him in there telling them what to do. But they loved him. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they depended on
You
all
know,
the
when
laws.
you get into that, it depends on who you're paying off and who you know. There's a lot of tough stuff there in politics.
Mhm.
But what is it?
Whatever.
what's the one job that you wished you would have done, but you didn't do?
I think I wished that I would have had the guts to go to New York and to audition for theater.
Mm.
At the time, it would have certainly been musical theater, but I would have had the, and my sister did. We have a baby sister who's
Okay.
19 years younger than I am.
Okay, and she did.
Yeah, she did go to New York. She didn't do musicals, but she did theater.
Mm.
And she's the one who's now the life coach.
Why do you think you didn't go?
I didn't think I was good enough. I was worried that I wouldn't be good enough, perhaps.
Do you, so one of my favorite things is, did you have the courage of a mediocre white guy? Which means you probably were fantastic, but you had the woman mind, which meant I'm not good enough, so I shouldn't go and try. But if you were a mediocre white guy, you would have been on stage. You would have gotten the lead part.
I don't know about that. Not the lead part, because I was always tall. I'm 5'7". Well, you know about tall.
Yes.
I'm 5'7", and I was 5'7" by the time I was 18. No, not 8. Sorry, 8th grade.
8th grade. Okay.
Yeah. By the time I was in the 8th grade, and I just grew like a weed. And
we had there was the whole crew of us that were like 5 of us that were all that height in 8th grade. So I had in 6th grade, I had size 10 feet. So it's like,
wow.
Well, you can't fall over then, It's like if you're going to be high, you have to have some sort of balance. So my biggest thing was I hated going bowling because on the back of the bowling shoes had your size. So I would go into the bowling alley and say, I'd like men's 8s. And they're like, we have women's shoes. I'm like, I want men's 8s because I didn't want to walk around with 10s on the back of my shoe. So instead of red, green, I had green, red with an 8. So it didn't cause too much commotion, but I hated bowling for that reason.
Oh, that's funny because
yeah, exactly.
What you said about you can't fall over. I looked at myself a few years ago when I was slim.
Yeah.
And I looked at my picture of myself and I don't have enough turned under. No wonder I have trouble with my feet, So,
yeah.
But I did go to audition for the Stephen Foster story, which was an outdoor drama. Mm-hmm. And it was, of course, musical because of Stephen Foster. And I went because a friend of mine said, come with me. They're going to have the auditions. Well, we got to the auditions and we discovered that they had already had 4 regional auditions, and then we were now being auditioning along with the others who had already passed through the other auditions. And I got in. I was in the chorus of the group. Yeah. And it was great fun. It was great fun for the summer. But years later, after I'd taught, I decided, well, I don't have any children. I'm never going to be healthier. I'm never going to be younger. I want to see if I can make it now, if I can be an actors equity person. And I quit teaching school and I got jobs right away and I got my equity card. So I was an equity member. And I had a job in September and I had another job that lasted all the way through till January. And then suddenly I was unemployed.
January 2020?
What?
Was it January 2020?
No. This was long ago.
Oh, long ago.
Several years ago. But I was unemployed because I didn't have a show that I was in right then. Mm-hmm. I was still teaching singing. Mm-hmm. So I took on a few little extra jobs here and there for, phone receptionist, blah, 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 that sort of thing. And after a trip to Tampa to audition, 5-hour drive, go to the bathroom, be in the room 15 minutes, come back out, drive back home 5 hours. I decided this isn't working for me. It works better for me to be working at something else, making money and doing theater because I enjoy it on the side. So
and what theater stuff are you in right now?
I just on Saturday night just did a reading on Zoom. And it was called Once More Unto the Beach.
Mm.
And I played a mother who is dying of cancer and decides to just off herself. But before
Oh.
she does, she and her daughters come clean about all their problems,
Oh,
all the things they've done.
that sounds very interesting.
It was a lot of fun. It was
That
a lot
sounds
of fun.
very interesting. That's pretty cool.
And I've done, but right after the thing started, this summer we did Beyond Therapy. Do you know that show at all?
Mm-mm.
Great fun show.
No.
And
What is that about?
well, the two therapists are the craziest people in it, and I was one of them. It's about this couple that meet, and from not it would be online today, but it was from the ads in the
Okay.
personal ads in the past.
In the news
And
back in the day when you
back
had
in the day, yes.
Yeah.
And they meet and they don't like each other right away, and then they suddenly think maybe they do, and it's very strange. And he has a male lover, and she's just frantic about getting too old and all this sort of. It's crazy. But I played the nutty therapist, and it would be like, oh, Marjorie, sit in the next porpoise. Oh, no, not person, patient. No, pollywog.
Oh, okay.
On
So
and on and on. Lots of fun.
what do you think is the most, like, people have, what's the word I want to use? Not prejudice, but people have an idea about how we are when we're older. What do you think is the biggest misconception about older people? I don't want to call us old people, but just someone with some age behind them. What do you think is the biggest misconception about age?
I think the biggest misconception is that you just automatically assume that they don't understand. And very often they understand a hell of a lot more than you think they might. Of course, there are some people who are going into dementia.
Yeah, cognitively not there, right?
Yes, yeah, certainly. And ever so often, I kind of wonder that about myself, like when I'm holding my car keys in my left hand and rummaging in my purse for the car keys,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, because I've got everything to carry and, have to rush out. So that sort of thing. Assuming or that they wouldn't be interested in sex.
There you
That's
go.
an assumption.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Are you dating?
I was not at the present time. I'm not, but I was just a couple of years ago. But he had to leave because his daughter was very young and needed him. His youngest daughter, and she was up north.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a lot of fun. I hadn't been dating for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Toastmasters is kind of a date place with everybody, That's one of the things I loved about it when I first found it. I could go out to dinner with a group and not feel like a fifth wheel, or a third wheel or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's very strange. I am not dating, and I still have some men who want to come on to me, and not all of them are 89 and 90.
Yeah, young guys. Isn't that weird when, like, a really young guy and you're just like, dude, no, I can't. No.
Well, I lived with a guy who was 20 years younger than I was.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes.
What do we call that?
Cougar, yes. Well, some people said, oh, congratulations for you, getting a young lover and all. I said, no, I didn't go looking for a young lover.
Yeah.
I went looking for a certain type of person.
Right.
And he's who showed up.
Yeah.
A guy that I had to stand on my tiptoes to kiss and my mental tiptoes.
That's good.
And that's the thing that interests me. I think, well, I like good looking men too, but then my idea of good looking is happily different from other people's idea of good looking.
It's mostly like, getting the same mental state. It's for me because I lived out of the United States for such a long period of time. So I'm very worldly. I've been to how many continents are there? 7. I've been to 5. So
Wow.
it's kind of like, you know, when you've got some experience behind you and you are competing and somebody comes to you that has never even left their hometown, it's kind of hard to, unless they're super, super confident, which is fine. You can match my confidence, woohoo. But it's hard. It's hard when you have a lot of life experience and the person you're talking to is not ready to mentally match you.
No, right. One of my friends said to me one time about this lady that he was dating. I I said, "Oh, so you have a girlfriend?" He said, "Yes." She expressed interest, so I went for it. But he said, "She can't keep up, Diana."
Oh,
And I thought, "Oh my!" But I understood exactly what he meant.
yeah.
Some people they're just not quick enough. And then there are others who are quick enough, but they're not vocal enough.
Mhm.
Um,
What do you think? Why do you think that is? What is the biggest fear that holds us back from asking for what we want?
I think it's the fear of showing vulnerability. That was the biggest thing in my life for me for the longest time. I was, oh, quite willing to show anger, quite willing, because that was strength in my mind.
Yeah.
But to show somebody that I might be hurt or
Mhm.
that I might be needy,
Mhm.
well, now, I just lay it all out. If I'm interested, you know it.
Yeah.
So, and
Mhm.
Brene Brown says, what we want most from each other is vulnerability.
Mhm.
And what we're least willing to give is
Is vulnerable.
vulnerability.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because when I look back, the things, I don't know why I always felt being strong was so important and being tough and being able to just do stuff and push through and handle it and not be, don't be wimpy, just, get in there, do it. And then I had other girlfriends that were more like, softer, nicer, friendlier. I was always the kind of the hard edge one.
Mhm.
And it is total vulnerability. It's like I'm that maybe that shows that's how vulnerable you really are. The stronger you are, like I always say, the higher up I go is also how far down I go. So I have pretty high highs. So I also have pretty low lows. And nobody gets to see that, because you only show the high part. It's like there's a saying in German that we only show our chocolate side because there's a biscuit that has a biscuit on one side and chocolate on the other. So it's when you're showing someone, you're only showing your chocolate side because you only want to show the side everybody delights in, right?
Right. Right.
Showing the biscuit side is a little bit different. What do you feel is one of your biggest, if you want to say it, what is one of your biggest fears or your biggest vulnerability?
Jeez.
I can out myself immediately by saying being abandoned. I was not abandoned as a child, but my parents, I'm a only child, and both my parents worked at a family business. So I was alone all the time.
Yeah.
And the being abandoned was the biggest thing. I remember when I had this one boyfriend, and it was in Germany, like he was unemployed at the time. And I remember coming home and I could see the lights on in my apartment. And I thought, oh, there's someone home. How bizarre. Like that was for me the weirdest thing in the world to come home to a house that had people in it because
Uh,
I was always the first one in. I was always turning on the lights. I'm the one who started dinner. I'm the one who, I always came home to quiet.
oh,
So
wow.
the being abandoned thing is really, that's my big, big, huge, scary, sticky point.
I think that might have been mine originally, but I have done a lot of work on myself.
Mhm.
I have been to 3 different therapists.
Mhm.
And the first one pointed out to me that I didn't have to be the hostess for every party I went to,
I love that.
along with other things.
I love that.
And the third one was the one who had me stop and look at the fact that because I didn't trust my natural father, that I had put up a wall against my stepfather too, as well. And thereby would say men are untrustworthy. They leave you, they say they love you and then they leave.
Right.
Well, so I did it the other way.
I'm leaving. Right.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll get out of here before you get to that point.
Exactly. So, all right, I'll out myself on one of my therapist things. My thing was, my job that my therapist gave me was to get a ticket, because like I have never not done what I was supposed to do. I never not got a parking ticket. I've never gotten a speed. I was like, he's like, you have to go get a parking ticket. And I was like, I can't like, it even now makes me have goosebumps. It's like, what do you mean get a ticket? It's like, are you kidding? Like, I can feel it. It makes me so panicked. I don't know if it was the Catholic nuns or something. I don't know. But it was just like, I had to go get a ticket. So I did the best I could. I parked illegally, but I did go out and move the car before I knew the cops were coming. I'm like, I almost did. I parked there for like several hours knowing I was fully wrong. And he was like, all right. But yeah, that was because I'm so rule oriented. It's like, if you give me a rule, I absolutely am like, this is the rule. It's very weird. I have a very weird thing about rules. So
I just heard yesterday about this Enneagram or something like that.
Anagram.
Yeah. No, it's not anagram.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I know exactly.
Having to do with numbers.
Yeah,
and I think that's a 9 when you have to do everything. but
which is bizarre. I break all the other rules. It's like I break rules all the time, but I have this thing about authority rules that I'm like, growing up the way I did, like, no, I never got in trouble. I instigated stuff. I just never got caught. I was always doing it. The parents all loved me because they thought I was like the perfect kid. I was in there with everybody else doing the same shit. I just didn't get caught. That's all.
See, that's where I got lucky. As a kid, I got caught. I do things that I shouldn't do. And my parents would catch me. And I got the idea, okay, then maybe not a good idea to do that. So I've had a lot of the rule stuff too. And as a teacher, even more. Sure. However, there were always little ways in which I wanted to get around things. I didn't back out of the group. I mean, I didn't not get caught with the others. I just got lucky, I guess. Except for one time.
Which was?
I was the teacher, and I had taken my students to Daytona or someplace like that. And I went out and drank the night before, well, on a Saturday night after the big All-State or whatever it was. And I went to the hotel room with another teacher. And the hotel room was the next hotel over from ours. So we get waked up by parent banging on the door saying, hey, are you coming? We're waiting out here for you. So he had to rush and get ready and get out. And I had to, thank heavens, go out the beachside door.
Okay.
In my evening gown. It wasn't a fancy thing, but it was definitely a long gown. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? I went over and there was a little seawall and the back of my hotel. Oh, good. So I start climbing over it. Little did I realize that back of my hotel was the breakfast room or the dining room, and all wind mirrors.
Oh God, everyone was watching you.
Everybody watching me. And one of the high school kids who had been a voice student of mine goes, "Isn't that Diane?"
Diane? At that point, if you had known, you should have turned around and like started doing a dance.
Well, I come down off the thing, and as I walk to it, I see, and several of them are going, "Oh." And so I came in, and I had to come in the door for the morning.
Morning. Here I am. So we're at our 30 minutes, but tell me, I want to do something called Magic Moment. Like I said, my dad was a magician. I named the house Magic House. I do a lot of things about magic. So if I could ask you, what is a magic moment in your life? What would
A
be
magic moment in my life?
Either literal or physical or however.
First thing that came to mind is being Carrie Pipperidge in Carousel.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
It was a magic moment because when I auditioned, I had just recently dropped 50 pounds on Weight Watchers. And I came in for the audition and I sang Rubber Ducky, and they gave me the part.
Where was this? Where was this?
It was at Delray Beach Playhouse.
In Delray. Okay.
And loved doing that part. The Carrie is the engine of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, the others are the ones that are known about, but Carrie is really moves things along. And it was so much fun. It was just great.
Well, that does sound like a magic moment.
Yep, it was. Absolutely.
So are you enjoying where you're at in life right now?
I am. And it's different, but it's always different. My mother kept saying, when you turn the corner, there's always going to be something new.
Yeah.
And it took me forever to change my mind about change. Originally, I thought, I love change as long as I'm the one that
doing it.
But I finally decided that change can be exciting and interesting, mainly interesting. And right now I have 3 friends who have just recently gone through some health difficulties. And one of them is sitting at home, just looking at the walls and saying, "Oh, I can't, oh, I can't, oh, I can't." And another one is getting up and getting out, going to the doctors if she feels like she needs to. And the third one is pretty much staying home because she's scared to death of this virus thing, but she's also working part-time.
Okay.
And going up to Palm City area for working. So I'm working part-time for the Better Business Bureau. I do collections.
Okay.
I'm teaching singing. I have 4 students. One of them is on FaceTime or Messenger, actually. It's better than FaceTime. And the other 3 come to the house and stand across the room.
And right, because singing is a real danger, right?
They say it's a danger.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I personally believe we need to breathe a lot.
Yeah.
So, and I put on my mask when I go out. I'm not ridiculous. Yeah. And I'm trying to help save other people. Right. But I have another student one of the other students comes here and helps me get my place cleared up. And I'm terrible with paper. I don't need one more piece of paper in my house. Yeah. And she's a help with that. And she pays for her lessons by helping me get things.
That's good. That's great. Yeah.
And I'm doing the theater.
That's cool. Yeah.
And every so often I go out to dinner, lunch with people. But we do our masks on the way in, and then we sit there and breathe all over each other.
It's very bizarre, isn't it?
I know this is terrible. I mean, it may sound terrible. The thing is, I have no underlying health issues. I don't take any prescription medications. I take a lot of vitamins. Yeah. But I'm in good shape. Great shape for the shape I'm in. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm very happy that you're in great shape, and I've really loved talking to you and hearing about your antics through the years. And let's see what comes of our podcast. And I collect them all, and then when we start to publish them, I will let you know the information. Do you have a website or anything that you use right now?
I don't have a website. I did have one for a while, and then my computer was stolen, and I didn't
Okay.
go back in.
Do you use a Facebook page, or do you
I
have
do have a Facebook page, certainly.
Is it-
Diana Loy.
is it just private, or is it for
And my
business?
picture is on it.
Okay, is it private or for business?
No, it's private.
Okay.
I mean, it's my personal page.
Oh, okay.
It's not private. I'm
Okay.
open book. You know.
Okay. Well, I meant, is it private being just, personal,
Yeah,
or
not business, right.
Okay. Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much, Diana. You were
It
my
was fun.
first.
I'm sorry we didn't get
first
to talk a long time ago.
So keep in touch, and I'll let you know what we do and when this happens and how it goes. And thank you so much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye-bye.
The way you still feel